Hello and welcome to this eighth recording in the series that I've been working through on Windows 10 in the enterprise. So today it will be all about UEV. Now UEV is a technology by Microsoft. The full translation is user experience virtualization, and it's a technology that's used to synchronize application settings and also used to synchronize the computer or the operating system settings. Now, previously we talked about or we've demonstrated how to use roaming profiles in Windows 10, which is the roaming profiles version 5, and we also talked about how to use photo redirection, and we've emphasized or we've talked about how all that seems to be driving towards is something similar to the experience that we get with cloud technologies, which are really popular these days, which is consistency across devices or across whatever platform that you're using as your workspace or as your workstation. So today, user experience virtualization. So we've previously mentioned that this series that we're doing, it's not more about theory, it's more about just demonstration, just showing how things work. We have other forums for discussing theory on our Google Plus community page. So let's get into UEV demo. Okay, so today we'll be using two client machines, LON client 1 and LON client 2, and a domain controller, which we also second as a file server. We'll be using that for configuring group policy, and we'll be using LON client 1 and LON client 2 to demonstrate what UEV can provide for you in your Windows 10 enterprise. Okay, so let's get into that. So first thing that we'll do is we'll get our environment ready for using UEV. Now, one thing that I should probably point out is UEV is a tool that's available to people that have software assurance with Microsoft. So it's not a tool that you can purchase. It's a tool that you get for free if you purchase software assurance. So there's a whole lot of other tools. So they're called the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack, HEMDOP. So you get this whole suite of tools. There are different tools that you get. Part of it is also like the AppV client and all that. And that tools, lots of other stuff. So you get all these tools for free if you purchase the Microsoft Software Assurance. So it's something that you have to discuss with whoever handles licensing in your organization to get hold of. So let's go over to LonDC1 and get this ready. So what I'll do is I'll go over to LonDC1, log in as administrator. And what I'll be doing is UEV uses a concept of data and templates. So what I'll be doing is I'll be setting up the location where the data and the template will be stored. So that's what I'll be doing in this one. So because this is a demonstration, this is not best practice, don't put your settings and data under the C drive of your domain controller in your enterprise. This is just to demonstrate, so we just see how it works. So I'll call this UEV data, and I'll create another one. I'll call that UEV templates. So data will be where all the so if a user is using an application on the computer and they configure certain settings within the application, it's going to store those application settings in a location so that whenever the user logs into another machine, they get the experience of the same settings across multiple devices. So data is where it's going to be storing all that information, and template is we can decide to start capturing the state of different applications, and what determines what will be captured the templates. So template is where we'll store this. So kind of like a central repository in our enterprise that the UEV client can contact to download the template. Okay, so we've created these two folders, and I'll just set the permissions and then share them, both of them. Let's go on the security. Again, this demonstration. Don't take this as best practice. Let's go main users. And what I'll just do is I'll just go full control for domain users. Now share this. Just give share permission for everyone. And NTFS permission will limit the access. So again, do the same thing. I'll add full control, go under the sharing and do exactly the same thing that we did earlier. Okay, so we have that configured now. And if I want to test that out, should be able to go to virtualization DC1 and I should see my UEV data and UEV templates here. So that's nice. So that's the very first step. So the very next step that we'll do is we'll configure group policy. And what we'll be using group policy to do is to point all the clients in our enterprise to this location. You know what? This location where you store your UEV data. This is the location where you retrieve your templates from. So the UEV data settings, it's a user configuration, while the template is a computer based configuration. So we go to group policy management. So one thing I should mention here is that the group policy template that we're going to be using doesn't come by default. So it's something that we'll have to import. So for example, if I expand the default domain policy here and I go under edit, so I could go under user configuration, for example. So let's expand user configuration, the policies, and administrative template. And Windows component. So just want to show you. So after expanding Windows component, so this is where the setting will be located. The folder for the settings will be located. It's called the user experience virtualization. So if I scroll down here, I can see anything like Microsoft user experience virtualization. That's because we haven't imported it yet. So that's the very first thing that we'll have to do is we have to import that policy into our store, into our policy store. So in an enterprise where you have a central store, you most likely want to import this into your central store so that all your administrators can get a consistent management template going forward. So I'll just go to the C drive here and go on the Windows, on the policy definitions is where the policies are stored. Yeah. So let's bring up another folder. And I'll just go to the heat drive and the lab files. And I'll copy the ADMX file, which defines the settings, and I'll copy that into the central store. Sorry, not the central store, into the policy store here. So just and I'll copy. So this is something that you get access to if you are Microsoft software. If you have Microsoft Software Assurance licensing. I'll copy the language part of the policy into this location. Okay, so that's done. So going back here, I'll just confirm I have Microsoft. Let's see. Okay, maybe that didn't copy. So, okay, sorry, it's called user experience virtualization. So let's see. User, so it didn't copy, so I'll have to make sure that I copy this. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. So, paste that. Okay, there we go. You have user experience virtualization ADMX file, which contains the settings, and user experience virtualization ADML file, which contains the language. Okay, so I'll go back to Group Policy Management Console here. Just close out of this one quickly. And I'll just go right to the root of my domain, create a GPO and link it here. And I'll just call this UEV. I'll go OK. And I'll edit this policy. And then you see that once we've imported the setting, or the settings, and we've imported the language, now I can go on the policies, not preferences. Go on the policies, go on the administrative template, go on the Windows component. And if I expand these out, and now I can see the Microsoft User Experience Virtualization settings right there. Okay, so the one that we're looking for in this case is where the storage part for the UEV data will be. So I want to configure that. We don't want to be doing that manually. We want to configure it by group policy across all the clients in our domain. So right here, so that particular settings, it's called the settings storage part. So right here, settings storage part, and you can see this policy setting configures where the settings package files that contains the user settings are stored. Now configure that. Yep, there we go. I'll enable that, and I'll set the location that we created earlier, which is the UEV data. So I'll go long dc1 UEV data, and I'll set, because it's going to be different, unlike templates, it's going to be different for each user. So as you're using your applications, all the settings will be synchronized to this location. So that's why I've used the variable username here to define. Just give it whatever the user's username is. So I'll click apply to that, and then we'll go to configure the settings for the templates this time around. So I'll go on the policies again, and I'll go on the administrative templates, Windows component, and Microsoft Experience, user experience virtualization right here. And in this case, the settings is the settings template catalog part. So it says this policy settings configures where custom settings location templates are stored, and if the catalog will be used to replace the default Microsoft template. Basically what it's saying is, if we have custom templates within our environment, which location are we going to store it so that our client can pull them from? So that's what we're configuring here. So I'll go on to that. I'll enable that. And in this case, I'll just go learn this one UEV templates, which is what we have for the other folder here, UEV templates. Okay. And I'll go apply. So I won't go replace the default template. So we're not planning to replace the default template in this case. We're just looking to extend it, add more templates. Okay, so I'll click OK to that. Now we've configured. So far, just to recap, what we've done so far is we've created the folders where we're going to be storing data and the templates. We've created group policy a group policy object that contains group policy settings that we've used to configure and point clients to the right data storage part and the right template storage part. Okay, so then the next thing that we'll do is we actually see UEV in action. So what I'll do is I'll go over from the diagram that we have here, go back to Learn Client 1, and then we'll install the UEV agent on Learn Client 1. So most likely I will be pausing the video when the installation itself actually starts. So I'll go to the, let's go to the C drive, lab files, .3. And again, you get hold of these once you have software assurance. So agent setup.exe and tool setup.exe, which we'll talk about later, much later. Okay, so agent setup.exe is what I want. So let's say you are in an environment where you have a centralized tool like Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager. You can use System Configuration Manager to deploy this to your client, for example. So you don't have to do a manual deployment on every single machine in your environment if you have 2,000 clients. So this is a really straightforward install. Go next. And there's some really critical decisions that we'll make. But I also want to point out something. So I'll say do not use Microsoft Update. What I want to point out is that the settings that will make at this point can be overwritten by group policy. So what I actually do is that, okay, I'm on this place where it's saying configure how your settings synchronize between devices. Okay. So I can go setting storage location, LON DC1 settings. Now, if you remember, we've configured group policy to point this to LON-DC1 UEV data, but now I'm giving it a separate storage location. And the reason for me doing this is to demonstrate to you that whatever settings you configure locally will get overwritten by the settings that have been configured in group policy. So group policy wins in this case. Okay. So on this one settings, synchronization method, I'll leave that as sync provider for now. We'll configure something different for the other one that we'll be installing. Settings template catalog part, I'll leave that one empty for now. I'll go next and I'll click install. So I'll pause the video now and then I'll be back once it's complete. Okay, so the installation just completed now and the installation will require a restart. So it's something that you have to plan if you're rolling this out in a big enterprise. So I'll just restart the machine now. And what I'll do is I'll go over to Launch Client 2 and do something similar. So now this is Launch Client 2. Log into Launch Client 2. So administrator. And do a similar thing. So in this case, what we'll just do is we'll change a bit of settings that'll be a bit different from what we did for Launch Client 1. So on the C drive, lab files, model 3, any CPU, and I'll just start the installation again. And I'll probably pause the video and just come back when it's ready. Okay, let's go next here, accept the agreement. Same stuff that we've seen before. And in this case, I will use a different settings again, just to prove that what will eventually, the setting that will eventually apply will be the ones that come from group policy. So I'll just go // lon DC1 / share again, which doesn't exist. But in this case, I'll change the synchronization method to none, and I'll go next. So the other one, we left the synchronization method as sync provider. Again, this is now the forum where we go into details explaining. We just want to demo something. And I'll click install to that. And I'll come back again once it finishes. So LON-DC2 has finished the installation. I'll click finish and restart this also. So while this is restarting, what I'll do is I'll go over to Launch Client 1, sign in as a user called Brad. And what I'll be doing in this case will be verifying the settings that I've applied. So we've just freshly installed the UEV agent. Let's see which settings apply. So also as part of the agent installation, it installs certain PowerShell modules. that we can use. So UEV is PowerShell compliant if you're into PowerShell like me. This is going to be taking a while. I'll pause this again and I'll be back once it's ready. So yeah, I'm signed into Learn Client 1 as Brad now. So one of the first things that I'll do will be verifying the UEV settings that I've applied using PowerShell. So let's bring up the command prompt, which we change to PowerShell. Actually, let's just go PowerShell here. And the module itself is called UEV. So for example, or for instance, I could go get command module that types out. By the way, why that's coming up, I'll go back to Learn Client 2, which is backup now. I'll log in as Brad also. So I'll log in as Brad into this one, and logging in as Brad, I can view what settings I've applied there. So for example, if I go on the get UEV, get module UEV, and I can go enter to that, and that comes up with all the commands that applies with the module. So let's see, get command module UEV. So here are all the commands that we can use with UEV here. So you can see different commandlets that we can use. In this case, we want to verify what settings I've applied. And the command I'll be using is this one here, get UEV configuration. So I'll just get that, paste that, and press enter to that. And now you can see what applied. So look at this, settings storage path. Learn this is one UEV data. Even though we set a different setting, it picked up what we've applied in group policy. It's what it picked up. So group policy wins in this case. And it will be the same thing if I go over to Learn Client 2 and do the same thing. It won't be Learn DC1 / here that applies. It will be the setting that comes from group policy that applies. So now to demonstrate what exactly can UEV do for us. So I'm on Learn Client 1 now. What I'll do is I'll go over to Learn Client 2 and I'm logged in as Brad on both computers, and I'll just bring up standard notepad. Okay, standard notepad. And before I do this, I want to take you back to the domain controller / file server and take you back to the location that we have here. So if I go under UEV data settings, now you see there's a folder called Brad that's been created. Okay, let's see. It seems as if it's empty, but if I actually view hidden items, I can see there's a settings packages folder that's hidden. And you can see it contains only ease of access settings.common, nothing else in the settings package folder, and nothing else here. Okay, so let's go back to Learn Client 2, where we're logged in as Brad and we've opened up Notepad. So what I'll do is I'll type my name, or a short form of my name. And what I'll do is I'll go highlight my name. Actually, I could go format and go on the font, and I'll change the size here. So why that's coming up, I'll go back to Learn Client 1 and I'll bring up Notepad just so you see what it looks like. Yeah. So you can see I'm typing just normal, same thing, nothing strange, nothing different. Okay, so here I'll change the font, change it to Canberra, and I'll change the size to 72. Okay, here we go. Cambria 72. So I've made a change now to the settings of this application. Now in this case, I've made this change. Um, I close this. I don't save it. Yeah. So what I'll now do is I'll go to the domain controller again and see is there anything that's going on. Now we can see there's a new folder here called Microsoft Notepad 6, and within this folder and within this file are the settings that the changes that we've made in Notepad are stored within this one. So now if I go back to Learn Client one, which we opened earlier, yeah, and what we'll do first is we'll go to the UEV agent. And I'll go again. Let's go Notepad. Nothing different. Everything looks the same. We go over to the UEV agent. Let's open the UEV agent. So yeah, we close this. So we have a button here called Sync Now. So this is synchronization that by default happens every 30 minutes by default. So I make a change within an application. It's synchronized up to the location where I've configured for you to store those settings, and then it synchronizes down to whatever client I'm logged into every 30 minutes. If I wait for 30 minutes, this will simply just synchronize, and the changing settings that I made on long client 2 will apply on long client 1. But what I could do is I could just go sync now and just make the sync immediately, and then it gives us this nice visual, let us know settings completed. Okay, so if I go open Notepad now, okay, so it gave a warning here to me. It says to see updated settings, log off Windows, and then log on and reopen the application. Okay, so if I go log off, and then I'll log back in as Brad again. So I'll pause this and come back once it's finished. Okay, so I'm properly logged in as Brad now. I promise you I have not made any changes. If I go open Notepad, what I'll just do is I'll just do the sync again. Okay. No, I'm not gonna log off and log back in. By the way, I don't think you need to log off and log back in. I just need to check my settings properly. Okay. So I have this setting on Learn Client 2, but it's not yet applied to Learn Client 1. I'll close this again and I'll go sync now. Here we go. So it just needed a few things, and now without me manually making a change to the settings, I can see the change that I made over on Learn Client 2 as applied over to Learn Client 1 here, and I can see the settings here. And if I go back to the settings storage location here, you can see there's lots of folders here now. So it's basically synchronized the settings changes that I've made, and it's moved them over to the other computer that I'm logged into. So this is where I'll pause for now because I don't want to go too long. This is already 30 minutes. So in the very next video, I'll proceed from here and show how we can take UEV a step further. So what we've done so far, demonstrated so far, is with the default application in Windows, which is with Notepad. So we can do the same thing with WordPad, which we'll do. Um, but then we'll take it a step further and say, let's say we have an application within our enterprise. We also want to be able to sync the settings of this application across devices to give the user a consistent experience, no matter the device that they are working on, or no matter the workstation that they are using. So how can we extend that using UEV template? So thanks very much for watching this demonstration, and I'll see you in the very next one.